Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, tmosso@the1916company.com. It is in the description below, your purchase and pricing email question line for purchasing this or any of our watches. Inquire about pricing, tmosso@the1916company.com. Today, we are discussing a recent edition of 6 pieces from Moritz Grossmann with dial by Kari Voutilainen and input from the Rake and Revolution magazine's Waco. This is the Moritz Grossmann Benu 37 Silver Bullet, a 6-piece limited edition in white gold. It is classically sized at 37 millimeters. You could see beautiful proportions and hugely wearable dimensions. 37 millimeters is the diameter, 9.4 millimeters is the thickness, from lug tip to lug tip, 45.6 millimeters, with a classically compact 18 millimeter spacing between the lugs. I'm going to throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and this wears beautifully. This wears like a dress watch from the 90s. It's got a nice presence, and certainly with the lugs, it has a lot of personality, but it's not overpowering in size. You can see from over the top, the lugs are not near the edge of my wrist, and I'm pulling the strap fairly tight. From down the barrel, you have an even better perspective where you can really see that this watch sits atop and in the middle of my wrist rather than splaying out to the edge. It is flat with a domed bezel and less than 10 millimeters of thickness. It'll easily slide underneath the cuff, and I recommend this watch for him and for her on wrists as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference. With white gold, it has a nice weight to it as well. Now, this is one of the straps that came with the watch. This is kudu, and if, like me, you wonder what that animal looks like, open up a different window, keep me streaming. It is in anemone purple, as they describe it, and it is a lovely, rich, and royal, one might even say regal shade for the kudu leather, which has a lot of the imperfections and grain and marks of the raw hide on it. It's a reasonably thick strap, too, with bolstering to add some volume, a folded edge, and a purple, let's be honest, it is purple, monotone stitch. On the bottom, a more conventional calfskin. You can see a Moritz Grossmann factory strap with no crimping, no gouging, matched to a Moritz Grossmann white gold pin buckle with the Grossmann logo on it right there. The case is exquisite. You can see it's all in high polish, and it features these lovely arcing tapered lugs that have a bit of a soft bevel on one side. It actually expands as you move towards the case. So you can see that there's actually 2 facets in profile, the narrow one and the broad one. It is an inward inflection that's really delicate and beautiful. And then if you look at how the lug joins with the case, you could see this is old school hand-welded case construction with the lugs fabricated separately, inserted into slots in the case, welded together, and then filed to create the super sharp break between the lug and the case. It is a beautiful old school way of making a case. Also old school and modest, an unsigned crown. The folks at Grossmann thought of everything too. They give you a little notch or kerf underneath the crown so you can dig your nail in to withdraw it when the time comes. The dial is by Kari Voutilainen via Complemin Cadran, which is his dial factory, where they have an unrivaled collection of vintage rose engines that are able to produce these spectacular recurring patterns on the dial. Now, the dial is made of maillot, or since we are in Germany, making Moritz Grossmann watches in glasuta, we're going to call it German silver. But whether you call it maillot or German silver, it is a nickel copper zinc alloy, very similar to what's used to make guitar frets. Now, of course, this one was cut on a rose lathe to create these lovely patterns, but then it was also silvered to give it this silver white coating. It's not naturally this color. The outer track is sort of a raw, silvery, concentric brushed pattern, and then we have this lovely cross hatching, almost like a pyramid, and then at center we have it again on the sub-register, which you can see is deeply countersunk into the dial, with a lovely rosette rose lathe pattern emanating out from an imaginary center point under the hands. The hands bear mentioning because Moritz Grossmann makes these in-house. They are cut to incredibly fine tolerances and wonderfully wispy proportions. They're hand-polished and then they're fired for a disciplined period, because if you just fire something infinitely, it'll turn dark blue. But if you catch the oxidation process and you arrest it short of blue, you can get these lovely brown-violet colors that are distinctive of Grossmann hands and also movement screws. We have white gold indices as well as tri-Arabic numerals, so they will not age or oxidize over time. The dial signed by its creator, Voutilainen, as well as the watch manufacturer, Moritz Grossmann. And you can see how that has been transferred. Taking a look on the case back, beautiful. This is technically part of Waco's Grail watch series. This is technically Grail watch number 9, a collaboration between Waco, the Rake and Revolution magazines, and a number of select watchmakers with whom he chooses to collaborate on these special editions, which are exclusive and only for the Grail watch company that he has created. Now, the movement is the caliber 102.1, so basic features: manual wind, 3 Hz beat rate, stop seconds. But now let's talk about the artisanal elements here. So yes, it runs for 48 hours, and it does so at 6 beats per second, but take a look at the finishing here. Let's start with the basic stuff. Engraving. At Moritz Grossmann, movement engraving is done freehand. You can see all these characters, the letters and the numbers, have been engraved using a burin without the aid of an engine or a guide or laser or a drill, so they are beautifully human and imperfect. Take a look at the teeth of the ratchet wheel. See on this side? See how there's a little bit of a mirrored gleam in there? They micro bevel the teeth of the ratchet wheel, and then they double solarize its top with this wonderful solarization pattern in 2 different levels. You could see the same degree of attention to detail on the crown wheel and crown wheel core, and the crown wheel core has been mirror finished. We have this lovely extensible click and click spring. You could see how it's integrated with the lever action of the click interacting with the tension at the end of the spring, and that prevents the barrel from running backwards. We have 3 screws that effectively tie the core of the barrel to the bridge and allow a jewel pivot on the top and the bottom to guide its action. We have chaton, or golden cups, for the pivot jewels. Note that the jewels here are clear corundum, not synthetic ruby. Same material, but without the impurity that creates the ruby red. It's a pale, austere look and beautiful. You can also see that in the style of antique German pocket watches of the type Moritz Grossmann would have known in his lifetime, we have a 3/4 style bridge. It's made of Maishor, or again, German silver, nickel, copper, zinc. Unlike the dial, this example is in the raw material, which has a lightly champagne tone to it due to the copper in the alloy. We get close again, those chaton cups, the old school way of fixing jewels into bridges and plates, how it would have been done in Grossmann's era, but also a modern way of removing jewels, cleaning them, and doing so without risk of damage to the bridges and plates. We have these lovely broad stripes, or streifen, since we are in Germany, and you can see that they've been laid like broad planks with a sharp color and texture gradient and a shading gradient. We also have these sort of purple, brown, violet screws, which, like the hands, are fired for a disciplined period to create that different tone somewhere between yellow and blue. It's got the violet and the brown to it. The wheels are made of an alloy called RCAP, and I don't know how well you could see this, but look at that center wheel architecture. By the way, center wheel like an old pocket watch, but look at the arm or the spoke of the wheel. Do you see how it's mirrored and beveled? Moritz Grossmann internally mirror bevels its wheels on their spokes and inner circumference, an extraordinarily rare refinement that you'll scarcely find on even Geneva hallmark movements. Look in profile and you can see there is mirrored anglage, or beveling, on the edge of the bridges, that the base plate is media blasted, and then you can see the freehand engraving on the balance cock, as well as the half bridge for the escape wheel. Take a quick look and you can see how complicated the patterns are, and then the micrometric adjustment system, which, according to Grossmann, is used to correct a beat error more than actual timing. To make small timing changes, there are timing bolts on the balance, bolts for both poising and timing, and those timing bolts are moved in and out to change the polar moment to alter the timing of the watch. So in effect, it works more like a free-sprung watch with stability against shock and a variable inertia balance. By the way, the balance of Moritz Grossmann's own fabrication. People often ask me, what has better finish, a Moritz Grossmann watch or a langa, and I say easily Moritz Grossmann. The closer you get, the more impressive they become. This watch has nothing to hide. It is naked and it is unafraid. This is quite possibly the best kept secret in watchmaking, Moritz Grossmann. If you love this watch, which I should also mention is 30 meters water resistant, so dress watch standard, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.